on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all, it's time for the Andy and Rem Show, the juiciest wargaming show on the internet. And in a slight comical twist, Mr. Remington has actually just disappeared as the show intro theme was playing. And it looks like he's coming back now, so this will be totally seamless, because you won't even notice that he's gone. Because by the time you see our cameras, he should be there, and in fact he is there, and you should be able to hear him now as well. Hello, Mr. Remington. You totally didn't drop out during the intro there. Is that a fair assessment?
Professionalism knows no bounds.
That is correct. So let's get rid of the thumbnail and make sure that everything's correct, and yes it is. Seamless, I would call that. So everyone, it's the Andy and Rem Show. Over 100 episodes of juicy, red-hot, sizzling, steaming, Warhammer-based discussion content, the originators of this show format. And Mr. Remington, it's a pleasure to be here as always, isn't it?
Andy, what a superlative, super stunning introduction there. Thank you very much. It's great you've been my partner in this show. After all these years, you can see what it's done to my hair, what it's done to my beard. And you too. This is another lockdown special, guys. Looks like we're in it for the long haul. And I've got some interesting stats to share with you about the popularity of this show. Coming soon.
Wow, you better stay tuned for that. Now, I was wearing a hat a minute ago, but then as soon as Mr. Remington entered the video call, I thought, you know what? I can't let him have the glorious hairstyle shine all to himself. So I'm going to get a bit of that limelight from you, I think. So vote, who has the most glorious hair? Is it me? Or is it Mr. Remington? And I think that mine actually has more kind of luscious thickness to it, but at the moment it's a bit wet, you see. So take that into account when casting your votes.
Sue Gibson says, you seem to be morphing into one glorious bearded being. Well, Andy, I've definitely got the advantage of a more regal beard, let's say.
Well, I'm usually the one that goes for style over substance, of course, with just this little bit here. But with it being in lockdown, I thought, you know what, might never do this again, but might as well give it a go and see what happens. And it's looking quite manly and ferocious at the moment, I think you'll agree. It looks like I could kill a bear with my bare hands. Agreed?
Oh, God. Talking of bears, you've got some bears to show us, haven't you?
I have, but first of all...
Just before you do your first of all, Andy, before the bears, those of you living in the United Kingdom, the UK, the GB, the England, right? Every week you get your bins collected, don't you? There's this wonderful company called Biffa. You heard of those, Biffa?
Sounds familiar.
Anyway, I could have sworn you changed my bins this morning, Andy. They were wearing exactly the same attire as yourself. Well, you've got a side hustle going on, apart from being a YouTube celebrity.
It's definitely not me, but it's safe to say that our influence permeates throughout society, even down to just your average working man on the street, not just the A-list celebrities like us. Everyone wants in on this fashion action. I think that's fair to say.
They do. Indeed they do. And the stats don't yet prove it.
Is that a fact?
It seems to be a fact that the popularity of this show is decreasing week after week. So either we're doing something right or something wrong.
Well, you say decreasing, I say streamlining, because when you launch yourselves back onto the scene, Yeah, a lot of people coming out of the woodwork to just check out what's going on, and they were never going to be long-term viewers anyway. So now that we've settled in, we've just got the core, the hardcore audience.
I was absolutely mortified. One of the comments after the first show was, when are we going to stop looking at Remington's pictures of models, and when are you going to show the Facebook ones? I'm like, dude, it's the Andy and Rem show.
Well, if people want
Right?
to post things on Facebook, we will bring back the audience model review section, which was always very in-depth and complimentary.
You know, I'm frankly very disappointed, guys. We need, you know what I mean? Anyway, I won't rant. I want to look in the comments, but it won't sign me in. Take it away, Andy.
Dear.
Keep this show rolling.
So tonight we've got obviously the juicy red hot segments everyone comes for, including What the Hell Is That, which is, to say difficult would be an understatement, I think. If anyone gets this one, I think after lockdown, Mr. Remington will gladly fly to your home and kiss you on the forehead. After lockdown, mind you. If you can successfully guess all the miniatures featured in the hideous creation that I've got for you this week. We've also got another scandal from Games Workshop, which I haven't even told you about yet, but you are going to be absolutely horrified. It's even worse.
Anything like the breaking news from last week that we uncovered?
I would argue it's even more scandalous than the Rhinox hide debacle.
That had about over 200 likes on the Facebook page of Age of Sigmar. That's 200% more.
Well, people come here for that hard-hitting investigative journalism, don't they? And I think they
like that. Or maybe it's just clickbait.
Well, let's not say that.
You decide.
So, first things first, we've got some endless spells here that we're looking at, and you brought these to my attention just before the show because I hadn't actually seen them yet. But these are the Lumineth endless spells, and I'm not that obsessed with them, really. What do you think?
Yes, my first impressions, exactly, Andy. I was more impressed with the scenery in the background.
Yeah, the models are quite nice, but the endless spells, I'm not so sure. The crystal one isn't too bad. With a different paint scheme, I think it would be nice. But the other two are just a bit... not much going on.
I hear what you're saying. I mean, the pink one reminds me of yogurt paints. I don't know why. Like strawberry yogurt being suspended in the air.
It's a little bit weird.
Yogurt.
The other two, they look a bit lazy, if anything, to me. It's just a tiny little symbol with kind of lightning bolts coming out of it, and the ground's a bit torn up. And then the other one just looks like some big floating bit of texture.
Is it like a children's? It's like something out of My Little Pony, or like a I don't know, like a 12-year-old's toy.
Yeah, the crystals are giving off that vibe.
Here, Andy. Andy, we're in the wrong game here. I thought this was for men and women. This hobby.
Well, that's what we thought, but we've got some people commenting on that. Benjamin says some dark crystal vibes from those crystals.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think it's... maybe if you paint it differently, but I think the paint job they've done here makes it look a bit too happy and colourful. Yeah, dark crystal's very moody.
Yeah. I like the guy that's seated there doing like a yogi with the cow things on his head.
Do you know what I don't like about it though? It looks like the seat that he's on. It's like two fine points that are meeting like that, and that central bit where they meet is so tiny. That's going to be the ultimate snapping point on that model, isn't it? Can you see what I mean? It looks like a timer. You know, like
it looks like someone's trying. You could be setting fire to the bottom of that, couldn't you? And he could be just stuck up there.
I hope that's not in the rules.
Just a thought.
Yeah, so a little bit disappointed in these endless spells.
We've got the yogurt pots, and then we've got this thing in the middle, which basically is like a force field, right? So you put this force field around your units, and I'm not sure you could fit a whole unit in there, but you could probably fit a hero or two, or stick it round an objective, and so it makes it harder for attacks to come in.
I don't think it really gives off the vibe of a force field, though.
You don't?
Not to me, particularly. It doesn't cover the whole area. And
It's just like hot coals, isn't it? And
it
there's
looks like
kind of
that
like
symbol is
confused.
just electrocuting the Earth briefly. Because lightning, you don't think of that as being a kind of a persistent force field. Lightning is kind of an instantaneous, and it's just been captured in that split second where it actually exists as a visible
Well,
entity.
I don't know that I'll always give GW the benefit of the doubt, right? Because I've got nearly all the endless spells, and they are a joy to paint. And I don't think there's been any huge doozies so far. What about the third endless spell there, Andy? What is that? It looks like some kind of brand you'd put on cattle.
It looks like either a mountain range with a smiley face or just some kind of weird floating symbol. I'll tell you what it looks like. The middle part of it at the top actually looks like Castle Duckula when it's teleporting in and out of locations.
Yeah, I guess.
It's just
What
a
does it
bit
do
weird.
then? What does this spell do then? Do you think it just
Well,
baffles people?
the rules are actually up, or some of the rules I saw on the community page, but I didn't look too closely at them because we don't know what we're talking about rules-wise at the moment. Spoiler alert, guys, if you're tuning in for that kind of business, then you might as well stop now. Otherwise,
We
you'll
don't
just...
know what you're doing.
Otherwise,
Andy,
you'll grow
let's just quote
frustrated and you'll
Andy there.
eventually dislike the video, and we don't want that.
We don't know what we're talking about on this show. Well, it's been confirmed. I
So,
suspected it.
Bazooka agrees with me, I think, about the Castle Duckula comment. So I think that's what that endless spell is going to be known as in the community now. We'll make that catch on. We've got a comment from Radbat who says that the colours are too flat. I assume that's on the crystals. They're very pastely, aren't they? That's kind of what you were saying. Not a fan, really. And even the white or creamy parts around them are a bit flat.
They would say...
Not great. So, shall we move on to the next bit of business? Up. Oh, you did freeze temporarily there, but I think you're back now. The Remington internet is playing up a bit.
Right, it's okay.
Okay, next, we've got some bears.
Okie dokie.
So,
what's the next image?
Kislev bears.
Wow,
This is the fully coloured in version. There are a couple of preliminary sketches coming up as well, but obviously Kislev are, oddly enough, hot topic at the moment, considering they're so chilly. But they're obviously going to be a way off if they're only in this stage of development with them, but we are getting some sneak peeks. We saw another unit a couple of weeks ago, and now we've got the bear with an antler taped to its face, and the silhouette of somebody who looks kind of baldish on its back, and there are animal skulls all over it. Looks like, very much like a hunter's mount, doesn't it, with skulls and trophies on it.
Yeah, I mean, the bear, it looks pretty majestic, but it kind of looks a little bit static, right? So maybe that's what big polar bears do. They just sort of stand there for a bit and then pounce when they're ready because they've got to save their energy.
Well, maybe the models won't be posed that way. Maybe
it's not like going like the old school one.
Yeah, I assume they'll be a bit more.
I mean, I love
animated.
that Boris. I love that Tsar Boris model.
So a couple of the.
I think Tsar Boris is a dude there.
Oops, on that. Yeah, I've lost the picture right now of the original Kislev bear, but we've got it in there somewhere. So, what do you think about bears as cavalry in general? Because some miniature lines tend to put dwarves on them, and that's something people talked about for many years, that dwarves should have bear cavalry. But I'm pausing because there seems to be a bit of a delay from the audio getting from me to you.
I'm just going to disconnect.
Mr. Remington is going to disconnect and then return.
Well.
So, it's just us, folks. Let's have a look at the comments while he's reconnecting. Owen says, is the bear trying to be an elk? Potentially. It doesn't look like the bear has much say in this matter. I don't know if the bear specially requested that antler was added to it. I think that's the humans doing. Let's see. Chris says they need to remove those antlers. Won't they just get in the way of the bear's fangs and sharp teeth? You would think so, and it doesn't look that securely attached to the helmet there. We're just talking about the antlers now that you've returned.
Okay.
And it seems like the delay has hopefully disappeared now.
Yeah, let's hope so. Sorry about that, guys.
So, the actual sketches, they make the bear look a little bit more ferocious, actually. You can see like the saliva dribbling out of it. The hair looks very kind of worn and matted compared to this artwork where it looks a bit, this coloured in one that looks a bit clean and cartoonish, presumably just to demonstrate a colour scheme, I imagine. But these sketches look a bit more interesting with the poses. And this one with the armoured face on it as well, covering the eye. Presumably that would be for a champion of some description.
I love, if that's a shield, I love the sort of the Russian style Orthodox church roof. You know, those like pointy roof thing. You know,
Oh yeah.
like the Kremlin. I love those, man. Wouldn't it be cool if they had Kislev scenery like that?
I think
Quick,
it's
copyright it.
surely they can do something like that. Although, would they nowadays when they want to make everything as unique as possible? I'm not sure whether they would take such direct influence from the real world that way.
Make it just a little bit curlier, you know, bit like
Yeah, you
that.
could.
You can see me.
So,
Bit like that.
what do you
I can
think?
sketch it out. Sorry, Andy. Let me just quickly
Yeah.
sketch that out, and then I can copyright it.
We don't have a theme tune for Remington's Sketching Corner yet. So maybe that could be a thing. How about that as a segment, everybody? What do you think? Not even just Remington's Sketching Corner. The audience will give us a concept and we'll sketch it very quickly in a minute and see whose is the best. Because obviously I am a top-notch artist, I'll have you know. I can draw stick men with the best of them.
Actually, it's looking a bit kind of Araby, because some people in the comments have said, look, if they're bringing back Kislev, well, surely they should think about Araby or Nippon, right? Nippon being sort of like Shogun Japanesey stuff. I mean, something like that, you know, that would, right? It's a roof.
Yeah, I see what you're saying there.
Well, oh yeah, that as scenery would look wicked.
So if that's the
But there
pitch
you
for
go.
Remington's Sketching Corner, I'm not sure it's going to get legs. But Bazooka likes the idea, though, that we have our own little art segment.
Well, talking of art segments, Andy, you've been doing these paint episodes, don't you? And I think that's probably the main reason why the views of our show has been going down, because you've been pumping your channel full of these 4-hour-long paint episodes.
That's true. I'm breaking my own golden rule because I tend to unsubscribe to any channel that puts out videos every single day because it's just too much. However, during these troubling times in the world, I feel it's my responsibility. The masses, the huddled masses that are at home, unable to go out and mingle in the community or live their everyday normal lives, or in fact, the key workers that are out there working their fingers to the bone, putting their lives at risk for the rest of us. When they get home, they want some hot, spicy entertainment. I'm there to serve it up.
I mean, can't you just video it and then just put it on fast forward or something and then talk over it?
Well, you could watch it at increased speed if you're that way inclined. You can do that with YouTube now. If you've only got 1 hour to kill instead of 2.
I just worry, Andy, that every week our viewership's getting halved, basically. The first week of our comeback show had over 600 views, and that's just phenomenal for a couple of old timers, old hands at this that, you know, had packed it all in for 2 years and then made a comeback. That's huge. And then last week we had the week before we had 300 views, and last week we had 200. So it is quite a smooth decline downwards, isn't it? It's kind of a
Well, it depends on what the red hot topic of the week is and whether we jump in there on it immediately, I think. Because the first week was obviously, it's the comeback. The old audience came back to have a look. Maybe they don't even care about Age of Sigmar or Warhammer in general. They just wanted to be a part of that momentous occasion. So I don't think we can judge the later episodes on that.
I think you should put the Kislev bear on the front, you know, because we are the first channel, as a fact, to preview this news by Games Workshop. You're getting this news before anyone else, unless you looked at Warhammer Community earlier today.
Nobody does that. No. Everyone just waits for the shows like ours to bring them the hot off the press news.
But that's what I would do, Andy. But then again, you know, I'm a marketing genius, and you work for Biffa.
Allegedly. My evil clone does anyway, according to you. So, what I'm thinking is that we go on to the topic that I pitched to the audience via our Facebook group last night, and people have been feverishly commenting away in there, and that is greater demons. So the question was, what is the greatest greater demon of all time? And I've lined up pictures of every single greater demon I can find in existence, and I sent them all over to you as well, so you can see what we're doing here. And the first one we've got is the original Bloodthirster, which is essentially the Hero Quest gargoyle. And this is pretty much where it all started for greater demons, as far as I'm aware, unless you've got some inside info from back in the day.
Let's have a look, shall we? When I first got into Warhammer stuff, it was me and my brother, and I got a greater demon that was similar to this, but was a lot nicer actually. But it was a huge hunk of metal, I'll tell you that. Yeah, it looks like a plastic toy, really, doesn't it? Though.
Well, that's really what it is, the old Hero Quest miniatures.
Yeah, it did. Is that one of your paint jobs?
That is not one of my paint jobs. I would have been really proud of that back in the day, actually.
Yeah, I mean the mouth is actually pretty well detailed, isn't it? That.
You've got the teeth in there. I remember the wings and the head were separate pieces. And you saw this a lot with old miniatures, didn't you? They would have their arms out at a kind of flat position, and it could easily be cast in one piece.
If any of you guys follow any Facebook pages like Old Hammer or Middle Hammer, when you look at people's modern day paint jobs, it's like they are trying to replicate the painting style from the 80s or 90s. I think that's really fascinating because I think painting's moved on so much, yet you've got a whole group of people that are retrospectively painting now, trying to match the styles. Yeah, I find that fascinating.
But, of course, time's moved on. There is another Bloodthirster in the meantime, but I couldn't find a picture of that one immediately. It was a little metal chunky one, and I think I've actually still got a piece of that somewhere in this house. But then after that, this was the one that really grabbed me as far as greater demons go. This Bloodthirster, which is the one that came after that, which is the first kind of really big metal one. It's got the one after this has more of an animalistic face. This one looks a bit more humanoid. Huge metal wings, big axe, and a whip. And this would have been like late 90s. This one was around. And I remember really wanting this model. I never actually got one though. What did you think at this time when the large metal greater demons were coming out?
Yeah, they started to look a little better proportioned. Yes, they were better proportioned, weren't they? They didn't have as large heads, and they started to have a lot more detail on them, didn't they?
Yeah,
this one definitely looks scarier.
I actually think this is my
favorite.
First
one looks like it's maybe.
This is my favourite greater demon here of all of them. I'm going to reveal that now. We're still looking at the rest because we need to find yours, but this one is my favourite. I would love to own this model, but I haven't felt justified in looking for one on eBay just yet. I don't have any immediate plans to use it, but it is very nice. I remember seeing that in White Dwarf back in the day. And then the next one was kind of similar looking, except the head.
About a greater demon, Andy.
The head was more of an animal, like a long. What kind of animal does that look like? Is it a dog or a goat or something? You know, the one that came next. It was still metal, I think, this one. But it was pretty much a different head, and that was it. And it looks like Mr. Remington's disappeared again. Wow, wow, wow. So let's see what's going on in the comments. Stu loves Old Hammer stuff. Very nice. And I still have that giant metal Bloodthirster. If you're talking about this one, then you should count yourself very lucky because that is my favourite Bloodthirster. See what else is going on in the chat here. Chris says my paint shows are great. And I don't think I need to read any more comments on that. I think we can just take that as gospel now. People saying that they like the idea of the art segment in the show, where we do little sketches. At least 2 people approve of that, and it looks like Remington's back again.
Sorry about that. I think my a member of my family is using Zoom.
Oh dear.
downstairs, which is highly annoying. So I might have them disconnected.
Okay, so we're looking at the dog-faced Bloodthirster now. And what did you think of this one? Because it wasn't a huge difference between the two. It was mostly just the head. And at this point, I thought this was a downgrade when this one came out. I don't really like this one. How do you feel?
They've gone with the big hands, haven't they? In fact, they've all got fairly big hands. The wings are a bit chunky, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm not sure if the wings are exactly the same on the two models. They might actually be the same apart from the head, the two of them.
And these are all greater demons of Khorne, aren't they?
They are so far. We're going to get to the others in a minute.
Right.
But,
yeah, bit nonplussed for me, Andy. That nonplus.
And what about Scarbrand, the Bloodthirster? So his main claim to fame is probably the fact that his wings don't look like they would work because they're so full of holes. And he's very detailed, kind of a unique Bloodthirster, holding his axes in a very unique way.
You've got a terrific beard.
If that is a beard, it is quite an impressive length on it. It looks like a spinal cord coming out of his chin almost.
Yeah, if I was fighting that greater demon of Khorne, I'd hold on to that beard and sort of swing up and like stab his mouth or something. Maybe that could work.
You've got to be careful, and if there's any kind of excess danglage on the end of that chin accompaniment, and he's running forwards, that could end up somewhere you really don't want it. If it's got some kind of weight on the end of it with spikes, for example, that could be embedded in quite an embarrassing location, I would suggest. So maybe Scarbrand is not the best.
Well, as to his wings with holes in, I imagine that when he's in real life, there'll be like fumes of flames like all surrounding him, and he could almost like ascend on the flame fumes, so he wouldn't need like fully fitted wings.
You get the impression that maybe he did his Khorne training running through, like a car wash. Has the big spinny soft bits that are going to be cleaning your car. Well, with that, but instead of that, it's like circular saw blades instead. That's how Khorne gets his champions ready for battle. And I imagine Scarbrand took a nice sprint through that.
Yeah, he looks a bit sort of a second-hand Khorne demon, doesn't he? Yeah, if I was him, I'd go back to Khorne and ask for an upgrade, really, because I wouldn't be satisfied. I'd go to my insurance company and say, look what's happened to my wings. This is what I've been issued, and it's just not right.
Well, would you like an upgrade to this, which is the new Bloodthirster, who is, of course, much taller, partly because he's standing on a tiny piece of flame, but the danglage is just off the charts here. He's got that huge hammer, which, I don't know, it just defies the laws of physics, doesn't it, that hammer on the end of a chain? And he's got lots of other chains dangling from his wings. It's just dangle central, really, this guy.
That hammer's gonna go right on his head. I mean, that's a health and safety issue right there. But I mean, he's had his wings filled in, so he's obviously gone back to Khorne and had the repair job. But Khorne's had the last laugh with an axe, like ball and chain thing that's like a booby trap.
Yeah, what is it with Khorne and having these weapons that look like they're about to seriously injure themselves? I suppose they don't care, really, as long as something gets killed. But what did you think about the new plastic Bloodthirster when that came out compared to the old ones? Obviously, it was probably about twice the price. And it's very tall, though. It's like there was a height contest. You had the new Nagash as well, who was floating through the air to become even taller.
Yeah, it's the best one. I think it's the best one, to be fair.
I'm still a big fan of this one, which I'm showing to the audience now. And that's a model I'd still like to own. But let's move on from Khorne now. Let's look at Nurgle. And there are a couple of different models that seem to lay claim to being greater demons of Nurgle, but I've just gone for the ones I know for a fact to be correct. This one here is the old metal one. There's actually a really nice new school paint job on this one that I found on Google Images. But this is quite a tiny Great Unclean one. And I'm pretty sure that I owned this one, but the arms broke off. Did you ever have this model back in the day? It's a tiny little
I toy
chubby
with the
thing.
idea of collecting Nurgle, but I just can't. They're just like lumps of poo, aren't they? Really, with like worms coming out. That's, I mean, you know
No
what I'm
one's
saying?
eating, by the way, in our audience at the moment.
You what?
Never mind. Oh,
God,
I can just see in the chat. Oh, Remington's disappeared again. And he's coming back. But there's one comment I'm definitely going to read out in a moment. So, Mr. Remington back again, with his family hogging the internet.
Now, about it. You asked me what I thought about Nurgle, and I don't know if you caught it.
Yes,
but
we
said,
did. We caught
okay.
your thoughts on Nurgle, don't worry.
Oh, okay, mate. Sorry.
But we've had a very interesting comment in the chat, which is the kind of comment I like to see, and it's from Steve, who says, I agree with Andy. I'm not sure what he's referring to, but I'll take it.
Steve, maybe you would like to be the first person to ever go to Andy Palooza. How about that? As an Andy fanboy.
Well, we would have to actually hold it first.
Like
Demand was so high we couldn't find a venue big enough for Andy Palooza yet.
A broom cupboard?
I don't think there's any space in there with RemCon going on as well.
Do you know what? I do love Nurgle. I love the concept of Nurgle, but the reality is like, oh my god, you know. But like when you hear Grandfather Nurgle, or you read about him, he's kind of like a Father Christmassy kind of character. I love that about him. You know, he can't see that he thinks he's spreading. You know, he's got a garden, the Garden of Nurgle, isn't it? It's like Nurgle paradise. When you die, you get taken to the Garden of Nurgle, and he thinks it's like a paradise with flowers and stuff. But in reality, it's just like rotting pestilence.
And in some ways, those make the best villains, don't they? The ones who really feel that they're doing the right thing and spreading goodness.
Yeah,
but in fact, what they're doing is just horrendous to everybody else.
Yeah, so I love the concept of Nurgle more than any other Chaos God. For me, I mean, Khorne is just a bit too simplistic. I don't know. There's no. It's just pure rage, isn't it?
That's a fair assessment, I think.
But Nurgle, they kind of have good intentions. You can say that.
Well, sense. Kind of. We've moved on to the next Great Unclean one here, which was also metal. And this is the one I mostly remember from the late 90s, which was another big fat blob with pustules and whatnot all over it. But this one was just bigger. And compared to some other metal models, I wouldn't be too worried about this one falling apart, because it's just a big, massive chunk mostly. All you'd have to do probably is maybe pin an arm onto it, and I think you'd be all right. But what do you think about this one?
Is this the massive one? And
this one isn't massive. It's got like horns coming out of his head, and he's holding a chain in one hand.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's Superman. The facial expression is phenomenal. I think Mickey, she's in the chat there. I don't think she's talking to me at the minute. I don't know why, but yeah, she painted some terrific Nurgle models. If you ever get the chance to see her stuff, guys, check out Mickey Jenver's Nurgle stuff. Like, just amazing. So yeah, this model is super, isn't it? Super detailed. It's funny because when you see them like just the metal version, you don't notice all the detail until it's been painted, you know.
And
but I like the expression on his face.
What do you think of the other one, which is very similar? This is the really big, pale green one that also has horns, holding a big sword. But this one's got some nice purple intestines hanging out. He's got skulls hanging off a chain. He's got Nurglings all over him. This is when they started going to town, adding Nurglings to all the kits. And this is the big plastic, huge one. What do you think of this?
I thought I was describing that. That's what I meant.
So you love the face expression on this one, then?
Yeah, sorry. I mean that one. Yeah, this is the new one, isn't it? It's brilliant. This one.
Yes, this is the new one.
Yeah, I love that. I think we need a Nurgle hero. A Nurgling hero. That'd be pretty cool.
A
Wouldn't it?
Nurgling army. How about this? A game, Nurglings versus Snotlings.
That'd be terrific. And speaking of Snotlings, man, have you seen the new Total War Warhammer DLC video?
I'm aware of it, but I haven't looked at it yet.
Oh, mate, you should play it to everyone. It's brilliant because the Snotlings have arrived in pump wagons.
Excellent.
And also flame fire phoenixes and Grom the Paunch, that famous goblin hero. But there you go.
So Benjamin says Team Snotling. So I'm going to ask all the audience now, which team are you on? Team Nurgling or Team Snotling? Who is the finest, tiny, little, ineffective creature that just adorns the bases of other, more significant creatures? Okay, now we're on to Tzeentch. And this is... I've never seen this model before until I was doing my Greater Demon research. And I think this is the earliest Lord of Change, the Greater Demon of Tzeentch. It's got 2 heads. It looks kind of small. It's like a chicken vulture beast with a bit of a metal loincloth going on, some orange feathers, which of course I like. So this looks very old school. Do you remember this one back in the day?
I don't remember that one. How big do you think that is?
I don't think that could be much bigger than a Space Marine, to be honest. Maybe... I don't think
it's a GW figure, right?
I'm pretty sure it is, from what I could tell. But I wasn't really aware of what was going on in the hobby at the time that this came out, presumably. But as far as I'm aware, this is an old Lord of Change. If it's not, then someone will no doubt correct me, because there's some people a little bit older than us in the chat. Steve says it was ogre size.
Right.
So not huge by any means. But you can see design elements in this one that were carried forward into the later Lords of Change. And have you got anything to say on this one before we jump to the next phase?
I don't like it.
You don't like it?
I don't like it. You know, have you ever read Archaon, the End Times book? I've got the big, thick, hardback one.
I haven't.
The first scene, or one of the first scenes in that book, is terrific. It's basically the court of Archaon himself. And he walks over to this pool, and out of the pool comes this greater demon of Tzeentch, and starts talking to him, like with the 2 heads and everything. And, you know, he starts talking in tongues, maybe, or talking in rhymes and riddles, and, you know, one head says something and then like Archaon doesn't react at all. And then there's a page or 2 of this Tzeentch greater demon just chatting stuff. And then Archaon just he just turns around and chops his head off in one swoop.
I thought you were going to say Archaon takes his headphones out and turns around and says, "What was that?"
Well, yeah, that's true. He probably can't hear a thing with that big tin can on his head. But yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Now, the next Lord of Change, I believe this was the next one. If there was another one in between, someone will let us know. But this one, very, very dark crystal. The first big metal one with the wings that looked like they would fall off if a stiff breeze was anywhere near them. And the face is what does it, though.
Well, the wings look pretty terrific, don't they? I mean, I bet they're really hard to glue on. The staff. Look at that head on the staff. How cool is that?
I think the actual creature's head is the best part, though. Do you agree with me that it's very, very dark crystal looking?
Yeah, it's beautifully painted as well. What were the name of those baddies in the dark crystal?
The Skeksis.
Did they have lists?
Not particularly. He does look like he wants to drink some Gelfling essence, though.
Gelfling. I heard they were making a dark crystal too.
Well, did you not see the Netflix series?
No? Is it any good?
Yes. You mean you're not aware of that?
No.
Well, if you like the original film, then you'll love that.
Do you have to watch the film first?
No, you don't have to.
I'm going to check that out.
It's like a prequel series.
All right. Yeah, wicked, man.
I
I'll
can't believe
check
you
that
didn't know
out.
about it.
No, yeah, no, I
Well,
didn't
you'll
know that.
start watching it, and then you'll probably watch it all, and then report back on your findings.
I'll do my best there. Yeah, that's a pretty cool one, isn't it? That's a good.
It is very cool, but I think a bit annoying to assemble and keep together. Mickey really likes this one.
Especially, why, Mickey? Why do you like that?
And then I'm not so keen on the newer one, which I've just brought up now, which is the huge plastic one. And I feel like there's too much going on, and the head isn't as evocative.
Well, there were different head options.
Yeah,
if I
you can
remember
also make one
rightly.
with two heads as well, which turns it into the Fate Weaver, doesn't it?
Yeah, Kairos Fate Weaver. Of course, when Archaon killed Kairos Fate Weaver, they don't really die, do they? Great Demon. They just come out of our reality and back to where they came from. So, kind of a bit annoying, isn't it? You can't kill a demon. Um, yeah, there's not much pink on this one, is there? Because pink is the colour of Zinch, pink and blue. Not a lot of pink.
There's a lot of blue going on, definitely. And there's kind of
Uh,
fire around the ankles, which is fine because they have. Fire is a bit of a thing for Zinch, isn't it? They have a different flamey looking units. Is that
so,
what they
would
called? Are
you?
they just called flamers of Zinch, those ones that just have the fire coming out of them?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
It's the flamers and those little like flatfish things that kind of
yeah.
put me off Zinch a bit.
I like the pink and blue horrors of Zinch.
Yeah,
I've always
yeah,
thought
they're
that was a fun
mega.
concept. Difficult to implement in the game when you were
Yeah.
taking off models and putting different ones on, and you had to buy a lot, since a lot of them weren't going to start on the table, which put me off them a little bit. But they always looked cool. And on to Slaanesh. Now, the original Keeper of Secrets, it just looks like a Minotaur with four arms. Very old school looking. Have you seen this model before?
No, wait, is this 1990s?
I assume this is maybe even 80s, this one.
It looks like a 12-year-old's done it, doesn't it? A bit, you know.
Well,
I mean,
we've got a couple of people in the chat who would know exactly when this was released, so we'll just wait for them to weigh in on it. But it's definitely got old school vibes.
he's got he or she it has it's got high heels on, hasn't it? It's high heels, but with a
High
bull
heels,
head.
big gauntlets, crab hands, a bull's head. It's got. I don't know if those are like nipples on its arm. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, or boils
Well, that's what I
maybe.
would think if it was Nurgle, but Slaanesh, I'm not too sure. Chains attaching the kind of groinal covering to the top of those huge boots.
I mean, it looks like a what the hell is that?
It does.
Yeah, maybe at the time I would have thought it was brilliant. Who knows?
So we've got some comments. Mickey says, I loved this, I still have mine. So we've got someone who likes this. And we've got a couple of people showing their support for Fate Weaver. We've got Radbat and Benjamin as well, who are putting Fate Weaver forward as possibly their favourite, although Benjamin does say that the staff and the wings break all the time.
Graham Riggs says you can't kill a demon, but you can mess it up so badly it takes over 100 years to reform on a material plane.
Kind of like this show.
Good point.
So Steve says it was late 80s, early 90s, they did one of each type of demon. Yeah, I think the Bloodthirster is the only one that we're missing from that era in our little run through here. So, on to the next Keeper of Secrets, and this is the one that I'm most familiar with, I think. This would have been back late 90s with the big crab hands with lots of spikes in them, the sword in one hand, and it starts to look more like the modern incarnation of Slaanesh creatures. Very smooth looking points, long tongues sticking out, that kind of thing. What do you think about this one?
Yeah. I like the face. Kind of real creepy stuff right there. It's like that film, isn't it? Pan's Labyrinth. Reminds me of that. Of course, this was made a long time before the film. Is that a snake's head for a tongue? Can't quite tell.
It could be. If it is, I wouldn't be too surprised.
It looks. I would say it looks a bit like a tyrannid, right?
There's definitely a little bit of that going on.
Yeah, I think the sword is a big problem there. Maybe if it carried something a little more slender, it would look a bit more balanced there. But there you go. Yeah, I think you've got to put these things in context of the times. You know, these fitted into the look of the army at the time. Didn't
So,
have anything like the technology they've got now.
what do we think about the new Keeper of Secrets? Very, very different, very sleek looking. It's just a very tall person, 4 arms, very graceful, almost like some kind of corrupted elf looking being, claws on the hands. Very, very smooth all round. Still has the hooves, of course.
Got the hooves and ram's horns.
And a
right?
very nice cloak. But I think this would possibly look better as a smaller, kind of hero-sized character rather than a greater demon. That's what I felt about this one.
I need to see it. I've not seen this in life size, but I mean, Vince Venturella, he loves his Slaanesh. He's got loads of these demons, hasn't he? And he swears by this one.
Well, for someone, a painter like that, you could do a really good job on this. The new models just have so much detail on them.
Well, one thing, Andy, this model looks like it should be in a court, you know, holding court. It doesn't look like it's actually on the battlefield in the middle of a fight.
That is true, actually.
You know?
A lot of the new GW models do have a kind of action pose, like they're leaping into action, or they have one fist like really high in the air like that, like they're about to strike. This one, it's much more kind of proud, almost smug, maybe overconfident.
Yeah, this is a painter's dream, isn't it? This model. This is for a pure like painter.
Yeah, if you're really good with your wet blending and all that kind of stuff, so you can get the cloak gradients. I'm not sure how well it would hold up to the Remington roller. So next, now this isn't
The Remington
strictly
roller. Yes.
this isn't strictly a greater demon, but this was pitched as something we could mention at the same time. This is the Chaos Toilet, and this is obviously pretty old school looking. What do you think about this one? Would you sit down on there if you were in need?
It looks like the kind of toilets from the 1990s rock and roll live music scene. So yeah, usually the doors wouldn't work either, so you wouldn't get much privacy. So if you didn't mind anyone watching you, you know, you'd give it a go, wouldn't you, if you had to?
I've seen a few toilets like this on long train journeys. Except this probably looks a bit nicer than some of those, a bit more roomy.
I mean, Andy, I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of guy that likes to leave a toilet nicer than how I found it.
I agree, actually.
I think if we all did that, wouldn't the world be a lovely place? But it doesn't seem to work out that way.
Well, for every one person like us that likes to leave it in a respectable state, there's probably 2 or 3 people that go in there and like to... What's palatable to the audience's ears? Maybe write things on the walls in things other than ink?
Defile the toilet. Yeah. Befoul. It's kind of like when I was a kid in Marks and Spencers, you used to be able to buy Venus flytraps in little glass cases, and it's got like a Venus flytrap lid, hasn't it? A Venus flytrap is one of those plants where you put your finger in it and it tries to eat it, and you can feed it flies and stuff. Kind of cool.
Steve says it looks like a toilet in most gaming stores. I have seen a few like that in gaming stores, but they seem to be getting better over time.
How do you flush it?
I think it flushes you.
Okay.
I think it is like the Venus flytrap of toilets. Stu says it looks like a toilet in a Little Chef. I've been in a Little Chef for many years. Are they still around?
They'll always be around, won't they? Little chefs. They're like the Wendy's of England,
So,
but not as good.
on from the toilet. Now, this isn't a GW miniature, definitely here, but I was doing one of my painty streams and Graham pointed out that he was working on a greater demon of Malice, isn't it? Which is that the other chaos god that they ditched? So this is supposed to represent that.
What are the attributes of Malice? What are the attributes of Malice? You know, you got Khorne's like anger and rage. You've got Tzeentch's tricksy magic and deception. You've got Nurgle, plague and rot. And you have Slanesh, which is lust and desire, temptation. So what was Malice?
So
Scabies?
this is Graham's personal paint job as far as I'm aware here, and he says it's from Nightmare Miniatures, and they do a lot of old school Warhammer style stuff. So I would assume that it's a new sculpt rather than the old ones, but I can't confirm that. And Benjamin says Malal. Okay, that's it. Yeah, that's the one. Hates chaos.
Malal.
Apparently.
He hates chaos. Oh, that's a cool miniature, by the way. That Graham did that. I love the sort of yin and yang face there.
Apparently, terrible news for you here. Little Chef shut down.
Oh.
No longer in business.
Well, maybe Remington Industries can save it, right? Remington's millions.
Well, I don't know about
Start
that.
a poll. Start a poll.
Apparently, Malal demons liked hunting other chaos demons, and it was a rogue chaos god who liked killing everyone, and then disappeared. And that's that.
Well, the Harlequins have the laughing god, don't they? So maybe they took up that sort of space.
So the next ones we're looking at here are the Forge World Greater Demons, which are even more expensive than the new plastic ones. Maybe even bigger, in fact. I'm not sure if they're taller because they tend not to be standing on flames and spindly little things. They're just big blobs of resin and very, very detailed, very, very high quality. And we're starting with the Slanesh one here. And I think this is actually much nicer than the new. It looks more like a greater demon than the other one.
I like the old one better myself, but fair play.
Compared to the new plastic one, though, this Forge World one I think looks more like a greater demon should do.
This one looks like it's on a battlefield for sure, and it reminds me of the Greek god Shiva. Not Greek god, the Indian god, Hindu god of destruction, Shiva, with the multi-armed, and just the pose and the way it's holding the swords. But she really needs to see a doctor because she's got like a spiked ball protruding out of her breast.
It looks like a mouth with an eyeball in it almost.
Or is that a cannonball? Maybe she's been hit by an Empire cannonball right in the.
I don't know about that. I think that's something intentional there. But obviously, Forge World stuff is always going to look nice, but you do pay a heavy price for it as well. Do you actually own any Forge World stuff?
I do. I own the Squid Gobber.
That is true. Yeah, that legendary war machine that was well known for having the worst rules, the worst damage output for its point cost in the entire game system for a while.
Yeah, now it's got much better rules. Actually, much better rules. Yeah, what else? I've got Manon's blades. There was some Marienburg sort of heroic swordsmen. They're pretty cool. What else have I got? Forge World.
I've got the Orc and
Goblin command group.
You got the command group. Did you have the big troll creature?
Troll hag?
Yeah, that one.
No, I didn't get that one.
You were thinking about it though, weren't you, at one point?
Yeah, they're just. Forge World stuff's awesome. But it's just out of reach with the price range, you know. I don't know, but I couldn't resist a squig gobber because I just love squigs and gobbos.
Well, we're on the Forge World Great Unclean one now, which is maybe the biggest solid chunk of resin that there is, I think. If you wouldn't even be able to fit this in a sock in order to kill someone with it, you would have to put this into something much larger. You'd have to get a sack for this if you want it as a weapon to defend your home. This is just a huge, absolute beast of a creature with his tongue wrapped around the sword. Looks very unhygienic there. That sword has got all kinds of rust on it. But then again, it is Nurgle, so he's probably empowered by any kind of hideous infections he's going to catch from that. But what do you think of this one?
Well, this one came out. I think it came out before the big GW one, didn't it?
Yeah, before the new
This
plastic
been
one.
around for a
Yeah.
while. I used to read a British comic called 2000 AD, Wicked Man, and there's a character called Slain. And if one day that turns into a TV series, it'd be brilliant. But the baddies in Slain were kind of like the Droon Lords, ancient Britons, and they had these stag horns coming out of their heads, and it reminds me of one of those a little bit. Yeah, this is tremendous, isn't it? Tremendous damage.
I like the
as well.
Forge World paint jobs as well. It's much more gritty looking and not so cartoonish.
Yeah. It is hard to paint Forge World stuff cartoonish. I think I don't know. Just maybe it's the texture of the mold just gives it this sort of more of a grimy, realistic feel to it.
It's very nice. Anyway, and now we're on to the Bloodthirster. Now this is a huge model. I don't know if you've seen one of these at Warhammer World, but this is the wings are absolutely gargantuan, and this is what I imagine a Bloodthirster should be like in terms of size and pose. I don't think it should be like gracefully jumping off a bit of flame into the air. I think it should just be stomp, 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 roar, slash, blood everywhere. And I think this model sums up the demeanour that I imagine a Bloodthirster to have.
If you saw this thing on the battlefield, I mean, my advice would be to run, definitely, man. But the wings let it down. But the pose and the paint job's terrific, isn't it?
I think the paint job on the wings doesn't do them any favours because it doesn't stand out at all. You can see all of the body. It's a nice colour, but the wings are just kind of bleh. There's not really much going on in the background with them. I think all the focus, your eye is on the body, isn't it?
I don't think the Khorne created demon would need wings, you know, because they like being in the battle.
Well, maybe they need to fly to the battle faster.
Well, can't they just like be summoned?
Well, I suppose. But what if there's some nice blood spilling action going on the other side of the battlefield, and you just want to jump to get there faster before it's all over?
Well, I'm sure he'd like to. He'd prefer to wade through a bunch of enemies to get to where he needed to. He'd get much more blood for the blood god that way.
Well, maybe we can pitch that. Get rid of the wings from the Bloodthirster. Clip its wings to set it free.
There's a great scene in Gotrek and Felix, one of the books. I can't remember which one. And they end up getting into a fight with the Greater Demon of Khorne.
I imagine that's in Demon Slayer.
Yeah, it's terrific, man. It's like just Gotrek and Felix, and you really think they've had it because they've had such a journey just to get to that point. And then this Greater Demon just kind of, you think he's killed Gotrek for good. And I won't spoil it, but it has a bloody ending, put it that way.
And now, the Lord of Change, Forge World style. This, it looks like it's holding like a tornado of limbs on the end of its hand. But I actually prefer this to the current plastic one. But I'm not sure I prefer this to the older metal one. I think the wings, they're kind of harp-like. But like the Bloodthirster, I'm not sure the wings are done too many favours by the paint on here.
Yeah, I don't think the wings are necessary. If you took away the wings, I think it'd be a wonderful, elegant model. Probably is. It might just be the angle, right? But look at the detail. Terrific that.
Very
Yeah.
nice
So,
indeed.
if you were a greater demon, Andy, which one do you think you would be?
Well, oh, yep, so that's the last picture. So, which one would I be, rather than which one do I like the most?
Yes.
That is a tough one. Would you... I don't think I'd want to be some hideous disease bag floating my way across the battlefield, pustules exploding everywhere. So I think we can rule out Nurgle. I think... Khorne... Would I like that kind of frosty? Maybe with this facial hair going on, I'd be more of a Khorne sympathiser at the moment.
You could rock the Khorne, man. You like orange. It's close to red.
And Tzeentch and Slaanesh, I think, aesthetically, those two are maybe the most similar. They share a few colours, don't they?
Yeah. I'll put you down as Khorne there, Andy.
With the beard, definitely.
I think if pushed far enough, you would, you know what I mean? You would flick a switch and you would just go into this rage.
I think it's fair to say that with your rock and roll lifestyle, you're pretty much already a champion of Slaanesh, I'm sure.
Slaanesh he'd have the best time, wouldn't he? I mean, it just might feel great. I mean, I'm a little bit tricksy as well, so there's a bit of Tzeentch in me, but yeah, it'd have to be Slaanesh. I'm not so much into the pain though. I think I'm more into the pleasure.
Well then. Got some comments. Maxim thinks that I would be the new Slaanesh model. Does that mean I look like the new Slaanesh model, or there should be an even newer Slaanesh model based on my likeness? Because if they're paying me, then I'll accept that. And so, everyone, which is your favourite out of all of those greater demons? Which is the best one? And I'm going to scroll up and see if anyone jumped on Team Snotling or Team Nurgling a minute ago. That's obviously very important. Did anyone even jump in on that? There's just been so many comments that I've missed
I
it.
don't think so. I think we're
Oh yeah, here we go. I found it.
Fast pace here.
Yeah, there we go. So Snotling, Snotling, Nurgling, Nurgling, Snotling, Snotling, Nurgling, Snotling. I think Snotling's got it. Yeah, the people have spoken. Snotling wins. How do you feel about that?
Love it. Love it. Snotlings versus halflings. We could have like halflings, snotlings, nurglings. Is there any other smallish or small units in Warhammer?
Are there any? Maybe there's the...
Yeah, maybe
what are they called? Brimstone horrors? Something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We could put them into the mix as
well. Blue horrors and brimstone.
Those tiny little ones that come in a swarm where they're standing on top of each other. Who else is equally tiny that could compete in this battle royal of the teeny tiny little sidekicks?
I mean, you can't count gnomes, could you?
Do they even have gnomes?
Gnomes are like in between halflings and dwarves. No, I mean that's a gold mine, isn't it? Gnomes, magical dwarves.
Yeah, in this fictional like gladiatorial arena game that we're envisaging here with these tiny little creatures, I imagine the halfling would be like the giant. That's like the final boss you have to get through, the halfling. So
I think what the snotlings would have all the weird and wonderful contraptions, wouldn't they? But they'd be a bit crap. And then the nurglings would have they wouldn't really have contraptions, but they'd have like interesting tactics. They'd be like, you know, when you go to the circus and you see acrobatics, they would have these, you know, they could stand on each other's shoulders and, you know, make themselves big and stuff like that.
Now, Steve says chickens, and I can actually get on board with that because I've actually got some chickens right here, and I'll show you them right now, because these are from Bad Squiddo Games, and I got them in the latest Kickstarter. And I'm sure it's not going to focus very well, but look at that. It's a tiny chicken. And there's also a big fat chicken as well. There's some even smaller ones, but you get the idea. I've got 30 chickens now. And pigs. But the chickens were the most important thing there, because I've got plans for those in one of my Kings of War armies. But yeah, chickens could definitely compete with these other creatures. Noblars, I don't know, they're a bit bigger, aren't they? Aren't they more goblin size?
Yeah. Yeah, Noblars pretty cool, aren't they? I've got some halfling rooster riders that you gave me, Andy. Thank you for that.
Have you done anything with those yet?
Yeah, I finished them, painted them.
Have I seen the pictures of those yet? I don't remember seeing them.
No. I put some stuff on Instagram, but
You'll have to put it up on the Facebook group, won't you?
yeah, okay. I need to finish off my halflings. I've still got about 40 of them left.
Now, you think it's been exciting so far? And we'll get to what everyone's favourite Greater Demon was at the end when everyone's had a chance to comment. But are you ready for the most anticipated segment on this show? I think you know what that is. So, everyone, it's time for What the Hell Is That? I'm going to mute us and then I'm going to play the What the Hell Is That intro video, which of course is beloved the world over. And then the image that greets you after that video is complete will be this week's challenge. There are 5 miniatures represented in it, and if you can name any of them, I'll be impressed. If you can name all of them, you're some kind of god, or you've got some kind of recognition technology going on, because it's a very difficult one this week. So here we go. We're going to fly into that right now. If I can click in the right place, which would be...
What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it a chaos dwarf or a vampire bear? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? What the hell is that? Only Andy and Remington, Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? Is it Sigmar's beard or Neferata's hat? Oh, what the hell is that? Oh, what the hell is that? Is it a mangled squig or a sorcerer's rat? Only Andy and Remington! Andy and Remy, Andy and Remington know.
Okay, and here is... Dun dun dun. There you go. So that is incredibly difficult, and Mr. Remington's having a good look at this as well. You can see that it's clearly some kind of hand with 4 allegedly claws or fingernails poking out of it. 5 different miniatures represented there.
5 different miniatures. Oh, really tough.
Bazooka loves the song.
Oh, thank you.
Benjamin and Mickey are asking for a return of the Forest of Rem, which I think we can definitely bring out at some point.
Yep.
People love that. Its ratings gold. Bazooka says it's a claw. You're going to need to be a bit more specific than that, bud. So on this piece of paper, I've actually got the solution written down just to make sure I didn't forget, because it's very difficult, this one. 5 miniatures there. I would expect Mr. Remington to get at most 2 of them. So obviously there's kind of that hand piece there, that's 1, and then 4 different spikes coming out of it. So we've got a couple of guesses already, and one of them is... Maxim says Mournfang Horn. I can confirm that none of them are from a Mournfang. Benjamin says Auric Megaboss. Nope, there is no Auric Megaboss represented there. Roach says Magmadroth Protrusion, which sounds like the name of some kind of music band to me. But the Magmadroth is not represented here. Have you got any guesses to make?
A Lumineth Realm Lord helmet horn in there?
There is not. Maxim says Cornate Club. I assume he means like a weapon, not somewhere all the Corn warriors go to just dance and hang out. Chris says, is one of them Alariel's Beetle Tusk? Nope.
That's a good guess.
It could be a while, this one. I expect you to successfully guess the hand itself.
Uh,
I don't know about the
is
claws. They're very
is it
difficult.
is it like a troll's foot?
It is not a troll.
Ah. Is it an ogre?
I'll do that. Not quite.
Ah, is it those ogres that come out the ground? Oh, what are they called? Not gnashers. I can't remember.
Neil says war chanter. There is not a war chanter involved here. Maxim says Sylvaneth Spike. There is not a Sylvaneth Spike, and we've got someone who's got the first correct guess here. Benjamin has correctly identified the hand as belonging to a Yeti.
Nice. Wow.
So
Yes,
there you
yes.
go. There's one.
Oh, I mean Gorger. Gorger is what I meant to say, but yeah.
There is no Gorger represented here, but that is a Yeti's hand. But the difficult parts are still remaining. Those 4 claws, and I don't think anyone's going to get them. I think maybe someone will get one of them.
Is there a Rhinox in there?
There is not. I can tell you that. I can tell you which factions they're in. There's one in there from Chaos, one in there from Death, one in there from Destruction, and one in there from Order. Not in that order, by the way. Maxim says...
Is one of them a lance from a knight? The white
No.
one.
Oh, we've got another correct guess here. Brad says Zombie Dragon. And yes, the one on the right, that very thin tip, is from the wing of a zombie dragon.
Wow, well done, Brad.
That's a good spot there. So just 3 more to go. We've got the big fat thumb one on the end, which has got a little bit of a hook on it. Then we've got the nicely faded painting that's on that one, on the big juicy kind of index region. Let's see. Bazooka says Ogre Mammoth Tusk. Nope. So we've identified the Death faction one. Stu says it's the left one from the Glotkin. Yes, it is. So the thumb is from the Glotkin. So only 2 to go. I'm surprised people are actually getting these. Dino says the biggest one is from the Chaos Chariot. No, it's not. We've got the Chaos one out the way. We've got the Death one out the way. So I can tell you that the kind of the index finger region is from the Forces of Order. And the one next to that, the kind of black one, is from the Forces of Destruction. And Benjamin has just got that one as well. That's from the Arachnarok.
Wow.
So this is very impressive. Just 1 more to go. Just that big, curly, white one.
I think Benjamin's on a roll. It's between Benjamin and Stu.
We've got a couple of guesses for this one so far, but we need to be specific. I need the exact model that it's on. You can't just name the faction. I didn't think anyone was going to get these. I'm impressed with the audience today.
Is it from one of the Wood Elf Stag Riders?
It is not.
Wild Riders. Oh. Okay.
I'll give you a clue, audience, that the one that's remaining might be from something that is potentially a little bit slimy. But it's in the Forces of Order. Benjamin says a Dryad. No, not slimy enough. Someone's going to get this. I bet there's someone feverishly going through the GW web store right now, going through the order section, looking for any spikes that look like that. That's the thing, you never know. Is it a spike? Is it a claw? Is it a tooth?
Maybe slimy.
Mickey says a greased up Dryad. No, as much as greasing up a Dryad is something that could theoretically happen in the realms, it's not the case here. Stu and Neil both think it's a Stegodon, but it's not. It is not a Stegodon. Chris says Charybdis. Nope.
A temple god? Saurus temple god?
It is not.
Bastillodon?
Nope. Oh, we've got it. Maxim, it's a Slan. So I'm going to bring up the solution now and show you all the miniatures that those pieces are from. And there you go. Look at that.
Oh, let's have a look.
So we had the spike on the tip of the zombie dragon's wing. We had the Yeti's hand. we had one of the Glotkin's spikes, we had one of the spikes from the throne of the Slann, and one of the leg points from the Ragnarok. Very impressive work, everybody, there. That surprises me, but thankfully one person
Wow, Andy,
didn't get all
you're
5.
spoiling us there.
If someone had got all 5, then we would have had to fly to their home to congratulate them after lockdown, so I'm glad that that is not something that happened. Okay, that's that. Let's get that out of the way. And we've got more stuff to look at now. So, Rumour Engine. The segment that GW ripped off is, of course, What the Hell Is That? But they brought it to you in the form of their Rumour Engine, and it looks like someone is playing a flute made out of a bone. What could it be? What do we think this is?
I think...
It looks like it has 3 fingers.
Yeah, I was going to say I thought it was a flesh eaters, maybe.
Like a ghoul or something.
Yeah, I mean, they would play a bone flute, wouldn't they?
I would imagine. Seems like something they would do.
Nurgle had a musician model, didn't they? But they've already done one of those, so...
Yeah, I don't know if Nurgle would go for the bone. Wouldn't they play more like an intestinal bagpipe?
Yeah. Or is it a skink?
Could be a skink. I actually saw someone suggesting on one of the Age of Sigmar Facebook groups that they were hoping it was a skink and that the Seraphon are going to get some love.
Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not a flute. Maybe it's a telescope.
A telescope with lots of holes in. I don't know, it looks like his thumb is kind of blocking up one of the holes as though it is an instrument that he's able to get a tune out of.
What do you reckon it is, Andy?
I don't know, my instinct is that it's some kind of tiny little alien life form, like E.T. or something like that, but I would imagine it's probably either a skink or ghoul. That's just what it looks like from the hands.
Maybe it's 40k, maybe it's a Groot.
It could be something from 40k and just disappoint us utterly. Brad says it's a peace pipe. I don't know if there's any time for peace in the mortal realms or the far future. Stu says maybe new Savage Oryx.
Ah, that's a thought.
That's potential there.
Yeah, I like
the
that.
fingers could be hidden. It could be a full hand's worth of fingers there. You've got some Savage Oryx, haven't you?
I did have. I sold them.
Maybe got rid of them all.
Yeah. I wouldn't say the word got rid because they weren't trash. They were quality, man. But yeah, they had to go. Maybe it's like a Beast Grave warband. Savage Orcs. That'd be pretty cool.
That would be interesting. Dino says, I think this flute is held sideways. Whatever miniature it is, do you think it'll be in that kind of whimsical, like, tiptoeing pose with, like, its hands out there and maybe a little hat on? Dancing around like a maniacal bard.
I mean, the problem with these is you have to wait up to 2 years to find out what the answer is, whereas on the Andy and Remen show, you only have to wait a few minutes.
That's true. They love disappointing people, don't they? They took our segment, but they ripped out the part of it that made it work.
But they also make money out of it, don't they? Because
yes, somehow.
That they sell. Quite ingenious, really. Yeah, they've got a lot to learn, I think.
We've got a few guesses for what this is going to be. But a comment here, Maxim says, have you sold the Nighthaunt yet?
No, I haven't sold the Nighthaunt yet, no, but I've been adding to it. So yeah, I've got a big Nighthaunt army available for sale, or just to look at if you want to look at the pictures. It's on eBay. It's the most expensive one on there. It's the best looking one. That's how you'll find it. And it features the colour purple very heavily. So at the moment, I'm just... it features almost every model in the Nighthaunt range. So there's about 2,500 points worth of stuff, including any spells. But yeah, so I'm just painting one of these Death Harrow riders.
Got to have a potential buy here because Maxim wants to know if you can link the sale on Facebook. So if you want to put that in our Facebook group, I'm sure that can be
Yeah,
browsed by
I mean,
anyone
you
that
can
might be
look at
interested.
they're on my Instagram page too. If you go to Remington Warhammer, I think I like more pages than people have liked mine, so it'd be nice to balance that out. Yeah, Remington Warhammer on Instagram, right?
Benjamin says
But
a great example of dusting. I assume he's talking about the miniature you just held up.
yeah, these are all dusting. If you don't know what dusting is, I don't know where you've been for the last 3 years, but it's revolutionary technique that's basically not dry brushing.
Dry
It's
brushing
more,
with a twist.
yes, it's more of a sort of a circular motion. Dusting.
Circular dry brushing.
Yeah, daubing circularly. Yes.
Now, this is nothing to do with Warhammer, but I thought I would show off my latest Kings of War creations. So, people have long suggested that Mantic miniatures are inferior to Games Workshop, but the current ones, I don't think you could really level that accusation anymore, because this Hellfane that I've been working on is quite a magnificent beast, and I think I sent you the pictures of it as well. But the detail on this is quite insane, and this is my completed painted Hellfane into my Kings of War Abyssal Dwarf army. And the game that will convert Mr. Remington eventually. We'll give it a go one of these days. And it's just golden majesty. I mean, what do you think of this model? If you saw this released for the like a new Chaos Dwarf faction Warhammer, you wouldn't think it was too out of place, would you? The quality going on here.
It looks like something out of the Seraphon army, if you ask me.
The back certainly looks similar to the... Is it the Bastillodon?
Yeah. What's that riding? Is that Chaos Dwarf?
There are 3 Abyssal Dwarves on top of it, 2 of them with guns, and one of them just has a big hammer, which I don't see how he's going to use, because they're so high up. But it is quite a magnificent model.
I often wonder. I wonder that about beast riders in Warhammer. Their weapons don't reach, so kind of a bit useless. So tell us about the rules of this thing. What does it do? Is it just like a big tank?
Well, the Hellfane is essentially a big, really hard to kill monster that can push up alongside your infantry and give them a boost by its very presence. It gives them special rules from being near them, basically. And that's it. It dishes out pain.
Is it any good in combat?
Yes, it's good in combat. Good in combat. I think the best thing is its survivability, though. Very tough nut to crack, as you would expect with it being a rock and lava-based rhino with a huge golden howdah on it.
Does it have any shooty attacks?
It does. The 2 guys with guns have a few attacks there to shoot out as it advances, which is a nice touch as well. It's very nice, but of course it goes into my entire Abyssal Dwarf army, which I have a picture of right here as well. And it's quite a hefty army now. Lots of units in there, and I'll just go through the pictures fairly quick because there's a lot of them. And if anyone's at all fascinated...
You could use this for Age of Sigmar, couldn't you?
Well, some of the models certainly could be, but the ones that are on the big unit bases might dislike being pulled off there and put on individual bases for that. But anyone who's interested in seeing more of this stuff can go to, not the Andy and Rem Show Facebook group, because that's strictly Warhammer stuff, but of course my personal Andy 2D6 Orange Wargaming Facebook group, when you can keep up with all this juicy stuff. But I'm just going to quickly go through it.
Can you have all these in one army, or is there too many points for?
Well, everything I've got now, it would be a big struggle to fit all that in a regular tournament-size game, unless someone organises one with a vast point level, which they don't usually. Got definitely too much now. I've actually got more unbuilt, so I'm hesitating to work on some of that because I've already got so much now.
Yeah, you put a lot of time into these, haven't you? Good picture that, Andy.
It
goes really well with the. It goes great with the table.
Yeah, that lava mat. Very nice indeed. And
really cool.
Still cycling through the pictures. And this is probably, of all the armies I've done, I'm most proud of this one, I think, which is why I want to show everyone pictures of it all the time. And when you see an army like this, does it not inspire you? Yes, I want to get into Kings of War and get these big unit bases done.
Said nobody. No, I mean, let's check the chat, shall we? You know what? I want to do a show, Andy and Rem special on eBay and pro painted on eBay.
Oh dear. Well, we can have that as a topic of discussion for a show, can't we?
Amount of models that says pro painted, and you look at it and it's like, no, it's not. It's garbage. But then
Maybe.
you could argue that because it's for sale, then it's professional because someone's buying it.
We could do that next week. We could have the
Yeah,
pro
maybe.
painted special if you want to find all your greatest examples of pro painted
Well,
miniatures on eBay for next week.
We could just sift through eBay and I could just talk. It'd be a live talk show. It'd be quite funny. It wouldn't mean to offend anybody, but it'd just be, is this really professional standard? What is professional?
Well, if anything, it would give
knows?
them free advertising for their eBay listing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's one for you. So Stu Gibson says, by the time Remington plays Kings of War, the old world will be back, and we'll all shift back to that. I think he's got a point there.
I don't know though, because is the old world going to be like the old Warhammer? We don't know yet, and it's going to be a couple of years off now. So it's a tricky one.
Yeah, they did an updated map as well, and it was pretty cool. No idea how that's going to pan out. Interesting though.
So as far as the greater demons go, we've got some comments on which one is the favourite. We've got a lot of people saying the second Nurgle one, which is the fat metal one.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is quite a nice one. Got some votes for the Fate Weaver. I really like that one as well. I haven't seen any votes for the one that was my favourite, which was the second Bloodthirster we showed. Technically the third Bloodthirster if you count the Hero Quest Gargoyle as the first one. So I think it's the third one officially, but we didn't show the second one. So I can't find it on my preliminary browsing. But did you pick a guaranteed Remington favourite from all those greater demons?
I would say the one of Slanesh that looks like the Prince of Darkness.
So my favourite is the one I'm leaving on the screen now. Stu says, I have no doubt it'll be even better than 8th Ed Fantasy. Well, if the old world is better than 8th Ed Fantasy, that would be great. But is it going to be different? That's the question. Is it going to be vastly different and not recognisable as the same kind of game at all? All they're doing is promising a return to the old world, and they showed us a square base. So that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a mass battle game.
No, I don't know if they'll even promote a gaming system for it. I think they'll just put their miniatures out there. I mean, they've said in the past, haven't they, GW, we're just a miniatures company. And then they put a load of rules out.
The games are there to sell the miniatures, though. Could they bring it out as like a standalone box, like you've got the Kislev miniatures against some other faction in its own unique little game?
If you could use them for like 8th edition or 9th edition and Age of Sigmar, that'd be pretty clever.
Time will tell. We have to keep our eyes peeled, keep our ears to the ground, as we do, keep our finger on the pulse.
Well, look, I think we've toned it down tonight, Andy, big time. I think people just couldn't handle the energy.
Well, do you want some scandal?
Yeah, let's hear some scandal and we'll close it out.
I'm going to very carefully move this from my microphone. There we go. So, you're familiar with the Citadel paint holder?
Yeah.
You can see, when you've got the paints in there, you can clearly read what the paint is on the side of it, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
So, which kind of paints would you expect you'd want to keep in the Citadel paint holder? Shades, some of the technical paints that are quite thin, and contrast paints, yes?
The ones fill, right?
Because they're all very thin, so you can read it. But when you put a contrast paint into it, look what happens. You can't see the name of the paint.
My God.
I mean, look at this. You have to take it out of the Citadel paint holder to find out what the colour is.
That's a big deal, man. You want to see what the paint name is, don't you? That's
If
the
you've
whole
got
point
some
of
similar
naming it.
colours in there and you're just going for the one that you think is right, especially if you've got some kind of mild colour blindness, and you have to go by the name, you can't just trust your eyeballs, then at first glance you might pick the wrong one, because look, the name is not visible on a contrast paint in the Citadel paint holder.
That is shocking. Why didn't they put the name of the paint first and then Citadel colour after? I mean, they want to just get the advertising in there, no matter what.
So you don't forget it's a Citadel colour, but you forget what colour it is until you take it out of the holder and risk spilling it everywhere the more you take it in and out. So I think that's just as scandalous as the Rhinox hide debacle from last time.
I think that's definitely one for the Watchdog files.
So yeah, we'll have to be in touch with GW's PR department, I think, and find out what's going on with this.
Oh well, done, Dandy. Another victory there for the little guy.
KK says this is a travesty in all caps, and I agree. And hashtag Paintgate.
Wow.
Let's see. Steve says, what if you pull
Getting
out the
bigger and
wrong
bigger,
red?
isn't
Yeah,
it?
exactly. If you've got all those different contrast paints that are quite similar in there, it's quite an issue. Maxim says, see-through holder, $1 million idea. There you go, I think we need to jump on that one, a see-through paint holder. And no, Joshua, you don't want to put your brush in the wrong hole.
Remington.
Are you making a note of this one?
Remington Industries present see-through paint holder. Okay.
Put a date on it and a time, don't forget.
Paint.
If you time it 10 minutes ago, then that'll technically be before the comment came in.
Copyright Remington 2020. Thank you very much, guys.
There's something I'm copywriting as well, because I've got my own $1 million idea right now, and I think we need a theme song for the $1 million ideas segment. So here's mine. I've noticed that whenever I'm applying washes or shades to a miniature at my desk, the PC monitor gets totally splattered in paint. Do you ever suffer from that, or do you paint somewhere away from your monitor?
Paint spatter? Yeah. No, my keyboard's got this sort of sparkly galaxy effect from all the spatters of white. Yes.
Well, there you go.
That is a problem.
So here's what I've come up with. Instead of having like a booth to paint in, which is just too restrictive, you're going to have a range of see-through panels that can be clipped on to all your surroundings and all your nearby furniture. So your monitor can have this big see-through panel over it, which can be easily wiped clean. It'll come with its own special cloth. What would we call that one? The Remington wipe. If you want to come
the Remington wipe.
If you want to come up with a special cloth that deals with the paint.
Remington wipes. That's phenomenal. That could be used for like anything, couldn't it? You know, wiping up any kind of mess.
It could. And then we could do one for the keyboard as well. The one on the keyboard will be thin, and you'll be able to actually operate the keys through it, but it'll still protect from the paint splatter. There's definite money-making potential in these ideas. Steve says the Remington wet wipe.
Remington wet wipes. I like it. God, you guys are. You know, I've just held back tonight, and you guys are just smashing it with the ideas, man.
We've got another idea here. This is actually an attachment to one of your existing $1 million ideas, which could boost it into a $1 billion idea, and it's from Radbat, and the Remington roller could get a squeegee attachment.
A squeegee? Radbat, that's a wicked idea, man.
Squeegeeing down all your surroundings after the paint splatter's been left on them.
Yeah, I mean, if you imagine like, you know, a razor blade, right, and you've got a button on it. So the razor blade's like the Remington roller, but it's so sensual that it glides over all the contours. But don't think of it just as being able, the Remington roller that is, as just working on flat surfaces. It rolls over beautifully, caressing the contours of the miniature. You know, and then when you feel the paint running out, you give it a gentle squeeze, gentle massage, gentle rub in that sort of motion.
I think we could be onto a winner here, and in fact, Joshua says we could get the economy going. And I agree with you, because these are all things that people need in their homes. They don't have to leave their home to get them. Things people are looking to do at the moment. Hobby.
Yeah, you change the heads. You change the heads on the Remington roller. So one could be a roller head, one could be a razor blade, right? One could be like a Stanley knife, modeling knife. One could be
Squeegee.
a squeegee, smoothing tool. Maybe it could be a straw as well. That's helping the environment then, isn't it?
Do you know, I think
Yeah.
one thing you're missing here is an extender for the Remington finger sponge. You have an
I
attachment
think
so you can attach the Remington roller to your finger with then kind of a long bit that comes out here, and then you attach the finger sponge to the end so you can get those hard to reach places.
exactly. And then you could pull the bottom of the Remington roller is you can add attachments there. So you could put the double ender on the bottom.
You
So
definitely
that's like
could.
get a double ender squidgy thing going there, yeah.
We could even turn it into like a quadruple ender, so it's got the two dry brushes on either end, and then across. So it's like that, and at each of these points, you then have various Remington-based attachments. So you basically never need to put that tool down.
Do some mock-up designs. Guys, if you want to help out with Remington Industries, put your posts in the chat. Actually, no, put them on the Facebook page so we can all see them, right? Your sketches for these designs, because we're all a community, right? And we can all grow rich together.
We're all a community that's designed to make us wealthy. And I think people can get behind that idea because our wealth through our quality content will effectively make its way back to the audience in that form, in the form of entertainment.
Down. It's what they call trickle down economy, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
what
except this one's actually going to work.
Yeah, that's what all the fat cats say, isn't it? You have to fund the big businesses, and it trickles down to the peasants. Sort
Yeah,
of
so
thing.
we'll make an exception and tell you to support that business model, but only to us.
Trickle down
Bazooka,
economy. Yeah.
Bazooka says the Remington Scourer for stripping paint with the Remington Stripper.
A Remington stripper. That is. Let me write that one down because that
What
is
about
useful.
it's a good start, but I'm thinking you need some kind of special liquid for this task for removing paint. So what about Remington's stripper fluid?
Yeah, and you pour it into the Remington roller, and the roller turns into a stripper. How about that?
You take the
With a
paint
double
off all
ender
those
at the
old
bottom.
metal miniatures
Yeah, love it, man.
in one roll.
It's like a hobby penknife, isn't it? This thing.
It
A
can be
hobby
when we're
penknife.
finished with it.
I mean, GW are reinventing the old world, and they're still a couple of years away. But in 5 minutes, we've come up with the tool of the century. This is like Nobel Prize winning kind of stuff. I mean, the only question is, how would you price this thing? Because it's priceless.
I think you'd have to have a limited amount and essentially charge through the roof for them, because I think demand would be off the charts. If the price too low, then a few people would just buy up all of them and then start selling them on for hugely inflated prices. So I think you've got to be careful with this.
I mean, you'd have to individually price each function tool, like the clipper, the stripper, the roller, the finger sponge, the double ender, all those things. Like you can get individually as well. Okay, so it's something you can sort of collect. You can maybe collect all the ends.
So I think what we should do first of all to kind of generate interest for this is something we can do, is build some mock-ups, some prototypes for these tools, and we could potentially give them away as prizes. And I think that would really drive interest in Remington Industries.
Yeah, we need to get some commission artists working on that, shouldn't we? Really?
Yeah, anyone who wants to do a nice piece of art of one of the tools that we've come up with over the course of years, post it in the Andy and Rem Show Facebook group, and we'll cast a critical eye over it.
Andy, tonight you've put yourself up a notch on the ladder. You've gone up a step there. You know, you were the sort of tea boy in Remington Industries, and now you've almost got a seat at the table there.
Almost.
You see, it doesn't take a lot, does it? You know what I
Just
mean?
need a little bit of ingenuity, a little bit of
Yeah,
know-how, a little bit of go-getter attitude.
yeah, man. Be positive. This is great, man. Look what you've achieved so much in so little time. Imagine where you could be in a year from now at Remington Industries, and you guys as well. Join in the party.
We need some people
And
to come in on the ground floor. It's like the base of a pyramid, let's say.
yeah, it's pyramid selling, isn't it? Really, isn't it? Well, I wouldn't say pyramid selling, but yeah, pyramid, and you work your way up. But you have to prove yourself, right? You have to do something pretty good. We used to have a lawyer at Remington Industries. Her name was Mickey Genver, I think. She was the company lawyer, and she'd been working on a lot of litigation cases, allegedly. Told me, and it's funny because when she was working for us, nearly all the ideas got stolen.
I think there was a leak somewhere.
It was a leak,
There was a
but
mole.
that was before we fully fledged the idea of the Remington roller. At that point, it was literally just a roller. So, luckily, GW didn't hear about all the extra bonus tool parts there. So,
Yet. So we're going to work on those prototypes, and I think the audience will be thrilled to hear about that. We could even auction them off on your eBay page. That seems to be like a hotbed of internet commerce.
that is the place to go. Yeah. Yeah. Right, I'm just gonna check the comments. I think we're about there, ain't we? Really?
Yeah, I think we're about to wrap this one up in a minute.
We didn't do nerd confessions, but I think we can save some of them for next week.
Yeah, whenever
Um,
the content's a bit thin that week, then Nerd Confessions can definitely come out and fill the void.
Maxim has just suggested Rem glue, and he's put the trademark symbol at the end, which is very kind of him. Thank you, Maxim. Everybody knows mystery products sell well, says Chris Palumbo. Mickey is defending her position and says, I'm a good lawyer. Well, I don't know. He's saying it's all coincidence. Interesting. Stu Gibson, does Remington Industries take on interns? Stu, that's a great question. In fact, yes, it does. All you have to do is come up with some ideas, and if they're viable, then you too could have a seat at the table of Rem.
The Table of Rem, well, the Forest of Rem, we've got demand for the Forest of Rem t-shirts from Joshua.
Yeah.
And
Oh, an
that's
idea
the
for the
thing.
Forest of Rem guys. If you want this fantasy live adventure to happen, what would be really cool and would be a nice little project for you guys too, if you're up for it, can you create a diorama of a scene you'd like to see in the Forest of M, complete with miniatures and you know what I mean? If you could take a couple of photos of a diorama, that would be pretty good. Maybe it could be Andrew the Ungor being sacrificed. That was one that I did, and then we'd center the scenario around the diorama you make, which will be seen by I was going to say millions, but possibly dozens
You know what
of
I'd really
people.
like? I'd really like to see some dioramas made on the iconic scenes from the original Forest of Rem. Because there were some truly amazing moments involving young Remington sprouting different elements of his body.
That would be awesome. Making a diorama of the greatest scenes in the Forest of Rem.
Yeah,
That'd
the
be
entire
brilliant.
Forest of Rem series 1, is available in just one long video on my channel. If you just search for the Forest of Rem, you'll find it. I think it's about 3 hours long. So that's basically nothing for the level of entertainment you're getting. It won't
was
feel like
brilliant.
3 hours.
Andy is a class dungeon master. He is a really good dungeon master because he's sort of very impartial. He's got the sort of just the way he presents himself.
And I think it's a very fair narrative D6 system. So anything that you want to do on the roll of a 1, the 1 in 6 chance of any action leading to some horrible disaster, I think isn't quite fair.
Yeah, that was class.
And Mickey is thinking of doing something with Flesh Wands, Cecil. Yeah, those are the classic moments. Cecil, the unicorn, the Flesh Wand of Slanesh.
Are there enough tentacles on eBay for a Forest of Rem diorama? Possibly not, but
I don't know.
I have to make some.
Bazooka remembers Cecil the magical unicorn, not only featured in the Forest of Rem, but was also a big part of various battle reports as well.
He
that
was.
are obviously still up.
He had magical juice, didn't he?
He did his magical rejuvenating horn juice. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap this one up, isn't it?
Yeah, man. Thanks, Andy, for hosting us all again. Very kind of you.
It's been a magnificent show, I think. We got to the bottom of some truly scandalous issues, and also a nice look through the ages at an iconic model range as well. Some top-notch content there. So, before you experience the wonder that is the outro video, which is exactly the same as the intro video, by the way. First of all, you're going to see the episode thumbnail right now in all its glory. What a beautiful piece of photoshopping from me with my legendary head-swapping skills, which have been honed over many years. And don't forget to check out the Andy and Rem Show Facebook group. Don't forget to post in there if you've got sketches of any of the $1 million ideas or any of the tools that we've come up with. Anything at all you want to post in there vaguely related to Warhammer. And painted models, of course, we can start highlighting those on the show when we start getting enough of them in. And the other links in the description as well. There's all kinds of social media madness down there. And fundraising, of course, if you want to throw all your money at me for some reason, then you are free to do so. I can assure you none of it will make its way to Mr. Remington, since he's already swimming in gold coins from Remington Industries and the associated product lines. So,
well, as you know, guys, there is a special offer, and I launched it last week. You get a free subscription to my YouTube channel by clicking the subscribe button and going to Remington Warhammer. You can find my channel, Remington Warhammer, free subscription for a limited time only. And when I reach that magical 1,000 subscribers, I will release some special videos for sure.
And a quick final question. Joshua wants to know if he can throw coins. And, well, in some ways, due to my Vermintide experience, I am in effect a witch hunter. So if you want to toss a coin to your witch hunter, then you can feel free with the Patreon link below. And with that, all that remains to be said is, good night out there, whatever you are.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the